All right, let's get started with the discussion session. Keith, can you review the agenda, please, sir?
Yes.
Manager Miguel.
Thank you, Mr. President. Tonight we have a public hearing on an ordinance regulating smoke shops. We have the introduction of an ordinance amending the park and traffic rules regarding e-bikes and adding definitions. And then we have the consideration for the award of a contract for professional services for construction management services for phase 1 of the Mount Lebanon Library improvements.
Excellent, thank you very much. We'll do a boards and authorities update. Commissioner Flynn.
Mobility has not met recently, but Connect does have an announcement. There's a new executive director named Courtney Ehrlichman, who the board of Connect selected. She comes from a very interesting background. She has worked at CMU. She was the head of Robotics, which was a company that was working on AI automation around road surface management. So very interesting, dynamic background. I'm excited. I think the board is excited for where she's going to take the organization, try to move, towards more innovation and regional initiatives. So really excited about that. Been a lot of work, quite a journey, but good stuff happening.
Excellent, thank you. Commissioner Petty.
None of my, the Parks and Rec isn't meeting tomorrow, and the other boards haven't met.
MRTSA, at MRTSA's last meeting, they appointed John Trant as the interim executive director until they conclude their search for a new executive director. They are going out to do that. They are going to handle it in-house. Yeah. And they already had 2 resumes. So that. Library board, I have not been to a library board meeting because I had to miss one, but the big news is Robin was elected president-elect of the PA Library Board, which is quite a feather. Very good. Yep. And finance has not met in June or July, so that's it.
And the Civic Engagement Board was, asked to go back and take a look at LIBO for some of the, goals that relate to that. And one thing they pointed out is there was a recommendation to do a survey every couple of years. So they were wondering whether there's interest for surveys. I said there may not be, but, other commissioners want to talk to me about that. That's great. And then let's see, for the partnership, they want to present for a discussion session. So that's going to be coming up. So if you guys have anything you want the partnership to focus on, I can, send it over to them, and that's it.
Okay, thanks. We had a extended meeting for resiliency in June, and I've had a regular meeting, not much is covered there, but a bit of a planning meeting, and all the subcommittees had in-depth discussions about what they want to put on their agenda or try to accomplish, some goal setting, and it was great. It's going to be a little restructuring, I think, but I expect there's some great conversations. I expect a lot of good recommendations to come forth from those conversations in the future. So covers that. All right, so we've got an AI discussion with Nick, Ian, and Katie.
Yes, thank you, Commission. So with me tonight is our IT manager, Nick Shallis, and our summer intern, Katie Campbell. Katie has taken on doing a lot of background research for us. Her summer internship started off doing research with the capital improvement plan and some other planning related stuff, and now it's morphed into her being kind of our local expert on a lot of what other municipalities are doing with AI stuff too. So she's been a tremendous addition to the team. So thank you to the commission first and foremost for allowing us to have a summer intern this year. It's been great. So what the commission's asked for this presentation was there are 4 main bullet points that we're going to hope to cover in the time we have. First was the current state of AI, what programs do we have that are currently using it. So Nick will talk very broadly about some of our current usage and then also where it is going with what some ideas we have are for future implementation and what some next steps are. And then the other pieces Katie and I will cover on governance and kind of organizational readiness. So on the governance piece, we had a meeting yesterday morning with some researchers from Pitt Cyber that we'll talk about. They had some very good recommendations. We do have what I'll call an internal administrative AI policy, but the best practice that we found and was confirmed by the Pitt Cyber folks is to have an overarching municipal policy that sets broad goals and objectives of what we want to use AI for, and then below that have an administrative policy that's set through IT in the municipal manager's office that kind of dictates day-to-day usage of AI by municipal employees. So we'll talk a bit about what the commission's broad goals are for AI usage in the municipality in the second half of the presentation. But to start with, I will turn it over to Nick to talk through what we are currently doing with AI and some ideas for where we might go next.
Thank you. So you guys know we talked several times about AI so far. Ian sent a nice memo to you guys that broke down a lot of the things that we're already doing with AI. So I'm not going to really dive in depth to that again because it's already covered in the memo. So what I can say right now is a broad of what we're doing. We're using the AI for data analysis here. One of the big ones is road reconstructions and things like that. So videos being analyzed of the roads and determining what's bad, what needs reconstruction, and it puts all that into a plate so a decision can be made. We do server maintenance with it. Basically reviews all the logs, reviews everything on our server, catches anomalies and let us know what's going on. So if something is going on with servers, computers, it lets us know. Security software. This would be like antivirus, old school antivirus, but it's all new now. So it basically analyzes, give a baseline of an operating system of what's going on, detects anomalies, and can detect viruses actually before anything else detects a virus. It could shut them down and actually revert them. So it knows the changes that are made to the operating system and can revert back. So even if ransomware is ran, it has the ability to revert back ransomware. So it is pretty nice, and it does catch a lot of stuff beforehand. Now, you got to train these models, so of course, we get a lot of false positives as we're building it, but we've been running it for a couple of years now, so it's pretty tuned in and it's been working well for us.
That's really cool, the ransomware thing.
Yeah, that was the big one, because that's going like crazy right now.
Yeah, it's expensive too.
Now, on the double-sided sword, I guess you could say on that, is the first ransomware that is fully AI automated has been released. So now they're using AI to automate their own hacking. So we're using it to defend, they're using it to automate. So we got a whole Skynet going on there. So, again, we use it in our video monitoring systems. So we could tell, is this a person wearing a green jacket? Is this a person wearing a blue jacket? So reviewing videos, reviewing for anything that we need to pull out of our internal systems. We have a lot of things cataloged under that nature. So that is another place that we're using it. And then notifications. So if anything happens, we can set up specific notifications on like our video systems or whatever. Say, hey, it's after 5 o'clock and somebody's at the front door, or it's after 6 o'clock on a day whenever there's not a meeting and there's somebody in our lobby. It could then send a notification. People could set that up to actually get notifications on that. So that's just different ways that we're using AI in a broad, really. There's so many other items. There's so many other little aspects of it, in finance and everything that we do use it for. This part of the softwares that we use. You will notice I won't give any specific software names during this just because it's a security overhaul. If somebody knows what software you're using, they could design flaws for it or try and hit you with it. But I know it's kind of low fruit, but I come from a security background, so I like security first, everything else after that. We did reach out to several other municipalities. Katie reached out to a few, I reached out to a few. We basically got back at the municipality level, so not city level, not state level, municipality level. We're like all at the same boat at the same stage. Some people have administrative policy, some people don't. Some people are like, we're developing it, and when we said we have one, they're like, can you send that to me so I can, so we're finding out that a lot of places are in the same boat. They're test driving things, they're test driving tools, they're seeing what works for them. It was at its infancy. You don't want to adopt anything right away because there's all kinds of problems with it. We're at the stage now where we can look at it and start determining, what are we going to use this for? Obviously, when they build it into our software, it's built into our software, it's a bonus, but like what new now are you going to use some of these new things for? And we're at that stage right now. So this is where we're evaluating tools. We're trying to train employees. We're doing all that to get that information to try and build up on that. And it seems like we're right along the same lines as a lot of other big municipalities that are on the same level as us. So All right, so current plans, so plans that are currently in the works here. We're doing, back in 2000, 2001, we started scanning all of our documents, making them all digital. So we tried to go paperless. So, you never go 100% paperless, but a lot of our stuff is scanned, OCR'd. We could search it. I know Ian and Keith use this all the time, they for research and things like that. All of our documents are there and ready to go. That system that we use has just released a major overhaul where they totally integrated AI compliance in there. So we are scheduled for an upgrade on that. We're going to put that in, and we're going to start the learning modules on our data. What that will do, so right now, whenever we put a piece of paper in there, we have to identify what the paper is, where it goes. There's certain key fields that we go and fill out manually. And this is for searches, so we know this
Right.
meeting number on this date is always going to be right, because OCR, you grab that, it might grab a dollar sign for an S or something like that. Right now, the new stuff they're putting in will actually, you'll be able to set up parameters. It'll identify the type of document, find those parameters on that document and put them in themselves. So instead of us typing them, all we have to do is look at it and verify. Of course, human verification, you still need human verification. So it grabs everything for you, and now we can go in batches, go down and say, yes, 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 yes. That doesn't look right. No, let me fix it. Yes, 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 yes. Instead of every one where each document has 6 things we have to type, and then save. That's going to be gone. The search functionality on it, it just used a basic text-based search to find text. And it had something called, they used to call fuzzy searches. It never, if you say, you type something you want, you can say, hey, 1 or 2 letters can be different because it might not grab
Sure.
a letter. An S might be a dollar sign, like I said. So it still matches what you're searching for. Well, now it's going to catalog all that into AI compatible searching. And they're going to have an AI component to search that data. And I will get into that a little bit later, whenever with some other future plans, but that should speed up searches tremendously. It should give you more data back that is more relevant than you doing a simple search and like, okay, now I got 30 documents to go through. Instead, I know I'm just looking for the one. Now it'll really go down and nail down to that solid one. So those are some things that we're doing with our document management system. Again, this is a system we've been using since 2001. We've been doing upgrades steadily, every year. Every time they release something, we're entitled to it. So it's a subscription-based service. So it does run locally. We run all of our data locally. It's not on the cloud. It's secure here. So just to let you guys know that. And the AI portion of it will run locally. It won't have to go out to the cloud. You won't have to have a third-party service like ChatGPT or anything that you tie into the back to use their LLMs. The new phone system that we put in now, so that was a big project that was planned for a while that kept getting pushed off and things were just falling out. We finally got it rolled over and into it. So they have a complete AI integration into it. So some of the features that are currently available, and then we're going to beta test. One feature is going to be voicemail transcription. So whenever you get a voicemail, it'll send you an email, it'll transcribe that voicemail. It uses AI to transcribe that voicemail and give you the verbiage. All right, so you can see it, and then it sends an attachment to you so you can listen to it. Just in case something looks wacky on the screen, you could actually listen to it. They do have an AI note-taking ability for your calls. So if you're using the app or anything, which we will be introducing to you guys, because you guys will be able to use that app here in the future, we'll go over that. You can turn on AI note-taking. So whenever you're on a conversation, it'll actually take notes, and then as soon as you're done, it'll present those. It saves them and puts them in your file and present the notes to you. So basically, it just notes all your conversations so you can go back and reference it. So if you're having, meetings or group calls or anything like that, it does that all for you. The big one is going to be, we're going to do a test run, a beta run of an AI receptionist. And it's going to be an after-hours receptionist because we're really big on having a human answer the phone.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah.
We do not want to get rid of that.
Yeah.
And I'm not pushing to get rid of it. I like that. But after hours, we just go to a standard message. Hey, you've reached municipality after hours.
Yeah.
You can call back during this time if it's an
Right.
emergency. Now we'll be able to curate a data set and it'll be, hi, this is your Mount Lebanon AI assistant. We're closed right now. You can call back after hours to get a human, or you could ask me basic questions and I could try and help you. We control that data going up to that. So the good thing is we'll be able to put together some frequently asked questions and different things like that and, curate that to the bot. And then the bot will be able to read that back to people. So if you ask a question about booking a block party, it should be able to tell you to go to My Lebo, sign on and book a block party, things of that nature. So again, I ran through some demos on it. It's there, it's available. It is an additional cost. Of course, all these things I'm going to talk about at budget time. You may see some things in my budget a little differently. I may have some asks, just to let you know. But there's a beta. There's a beta and there's a trial period that we could use it. So we started curating FAQ data, and I'll get into here shortly to show you what else we could do with that data. But we're trying to build all that up to see what we can do with it. The last thing was during the retreat, Keith mentioned to everyone about potentially making the training center back downstairs. We used to have in the old 911 center. Yeah, so we have done that. That's set up. We are starting to build
Okay.
classes. So once we got the approval, Keith gave me the go-ahead, and we worked together, got everything set up. So if you ever walk down through there on the way out, you'll see there's workstations set up, there's tables set up. It
This is
is
for
now.
staff.
And the attic is all cleaned out now, as I used to refer to it.
Yeah.
All the garbage is gone, yes.
And this is all training for staff.
Correct.
Cool.
So we are building some classes specifically for AI. So as everyone knows, we released Copilot to everyone a while back. We came out with administrative policy. We allowed people to use it. Only certain people have taken advantage of that so far, but the ones that have used it love it and, think that it's great with, proper human intervention and things like that. It's an additional tool that you have in your tool belt. It's not a replacement for anyone. It's a tool for that person. So
Is that in Microsoft?
that's Microsoft, yes. And just to let you know, whenever Copilot's referenced, I know a lot of people use ChatGPT. That's the buzzword out everywhere because they were like one of the biggest ones to go out. Copilot is ChatGPT. The back end LLMs is ChatGPT, but Microsoft has curated the front end to make it seamless. So technically, we don't have to pay for a ChatGPT subscription for it because we have Copilot. It's included in our Office licensing, which is included with our emails and stuff like that. You guys will have access to that as well, by the way.
Yay.
So, okay. So a couple of classes that we're building right now for the staff to use generative AI is going to be asking, how do I ask AI to give me the proper information back? How do I get the most? Because you could ask it something and it just spits out garbage to you and you go, okay, and that's fine. No, there's a way that you structure your questions to it. And it's not just one question or a single question. Usually whenever you want something, you have to give it a specific verbiage, and that's called a prompt. I'm from back in the day though, whenever a prompt is that black screen, and you got your prompt where you're typing out commands, but no, they're called prompts now. So you structure it a certain way and you give it instructions. You can give it certain instructions. You tell it who it is. You tell it what to do. You tell it specifics. You give it key points. And then that's the best way to get structured data back from it. It's actually meaningful. Otherwise, it starts repeating itself. It starts, giving garbage. It's one page will contradict another page, which will contradict another page. So things like that. That is one of the classes we're going to have. We're going to do some very basics on it. And then, of course, we're going to turn that over to our staff to let them, they're smart. We have a very good staff. They're going to take that, build upon that, and see how they do. So another class would be how to use it to draft documents and correspondence. Now, I say draft because our policy states that human intervention is needed. So it's not you're going to put this out there and have it automatically go and post. No, you can put, I'm going to give it key facts, and that'll tie onto that prompt class. How am I going to give it the prompts that I want? And then it'll give you back some information. That information you could take and tweak to make it yourself. Part of that prompt is actually you can give it samples of how you write, and it will write how you write. So it takes a lot of the middleman out. A lot of people don't realize that. You could look at somebody who uses something and go, that's ChatGPT. I could look right now, I can pick it out every time. My wife does it with her business people. She looks, she goes, that's all they use is ChatGPT, and they don't change it. They don't use it for valid data. They just copy and paste right on there. I'm like, and people are getting sick of it, to be honest with you. So it is affecting people in the business community. I'm sure it'll affect people in the government community too as well. Like people are just like, I don't want to see that out there. I want to see, yes, use it as a tool.
Personalized.
Yeah, use it as a tool. So the next thing we're going to teach is using AI to summarize meetings and write minutes for you. So we've ran some tests, and I usually take like the commission meeting, and there's some tools out there that will actually take the video and summarize every word for word into a text file. And then what we do is you take a sample of your minutes and the text file, and you say, I'm gonna give these both to you. And here, I want you to try and do it for me. So, I mean, I've had some good test results, and it does require tweaking though, but it might take a process that takes 2 hours and cut it down to 10 minutes, 15 minutes, for the human to interact with it and test it, and what you get back, just tweak it. So all things that we're gonna teach them in a class how to do. And then I wanna see what people do with it, because they're gonna know more about their areas to work with than I am. So I'd love to see what they can do with it. All right, so for future ideas, we have a couple future ideas along the same lines as the digital receptionist is going to be, the general name for it is chatbots. I like to call them digital assistants, something that someone can use. So I would say there's a public one and internal ones, or there could be multiple ones, or there could be specific departmental ones that we can make for people. And of course, talking is one thing, but seeing something is different. So how about I give you a little view of what I'm talking about here. Can you guys read that okay?
Yeah.
Okay, I do not have my glasses, so I cannot read okay. I'm gonna look on my screen and hopefully I can see what I'm doing.
Would you like me to narrate for you?
Okay, so what we'd like to show you is that we talked about that FAQ. So we did start curating something. We started doing it real quick. We asked departments to quickly give us some FAQs. They came out with about 85 questions and answers that we rolled into this. So what I did is took those questions and answers, converted them into an AI compatible data set. And then I converted that into a database that's actually read by AI. So believe it or not, it says numbers. And then it uses mathematical equations. I know no one probably cares about that, but to match the data. So this one here is what I would call the public assistant. And then I have one that I would do as the private assistant. So the private assistant, I grabbed several of our internal sources. And what this could be used for is people think right now, HR. HR gets a call, they have to answer questions about HR stuff that's in the personnel manual. It takes some time to speak with someone. So if we can put call takers in there that don't have anything to do with HR, really like just secretaries or anything that could fill that gap, they could have something like this and we could preload all the documents. So to give you an idea, the documents I have in right here in this particular one is the personnel manual. I put the entire code book in here, and I put the Ascend Lebo in here. So just to mess around. I'm gonna ask you some questions here and we'll see what comes out. So this is a fully functioning AI system right now. It's accessing our local LLM here. None of this data goes out to the internet. It's all local. It hits our server here. It only answers the questions by us feeding it the data. So it actually searches our database for all those files that I was talking about. So it's just a glorified search, but it's a super search. So it's like what I was talking about, how our document management system does. Well, this is something for internal. So internal here, you could ask basic questions. So let's say I'm a call taker. I have no idea anything about those things that we just talked about. I'm good. Hey, an employee here has a question. How much notice do they have to give before they retire? So that's a personnel manual question, right? So there it is.
But it's nighttime, you're not working.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know why I said that.
So right now, the data's going out, it's hitting the LLM.
Yeah.
It searched the database, it took all that data it found, it threw it to the LLM. The LLM is converting it to something human and gonna spit back something. So. Candy for everyone. So basically, whatever it found, it gives you back some basic information on. So you can see that to receive pro rata vacation allowance when you resign or retire, you must at least a minimum of 2 weeks. Additionally, specific sections mention an employee who voluntarily resigned. So it basically talks about 2 weeks notice here. And that's what's it found that in the personnel manual. This did not go out to the internet. This did not hit Google, did not hit anything else, did not use its own local database. It just used the information that we gave it. So I'm gonna throw another one. Let's stay on the HR side. So let's say we have somebody who has to go to FMLA. They're getting surgery. Okay, so what do I do, you know? So we'll say, help if I could spell. And I misspelled one still, but it's still gonna work because it fixes on that. So right now it's thinking, I actually have a troubleshooting here. I see it thinking in the background and see exactly how it's doing it, how it's gonna give me the answer. So I'm sort of watching it. Hey, it's gonna spit out the answer here now. So it gives you some eligibility requirements and what you need to do,
yeah,
notification, everything like that. So this could be, a call taker could be on the phone and we just search the document instead of trying to do just a manual search on a PDF or go through the Word files or bother that person who's in charge of it. They could then pull this up and get some basic data to give the information back. So that's what I'm talking about, a digital assistant for the person, for internal people. Let's do another one. So our policies are in the personnel manual. So we'll say is there an internet usage policy? So right now, spit that out, it found the information and it's probably chunking in the background, so.
There you go.
So yes, there's an acceptable use of information policy in here. It gives you, a basic rundown of it, it gives you a summary of it. Of course, then you know that you could pull the full policy and give it to someone, but this gives you the basic gist of what you need to know. So let's do something with the,
Let's go to the public one.
public one, yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Don't let me ask it the question. He asked me to pay it, I asked him.
Public
a trick
side,
question.
so-
Wasn't fair.
This is basic FAQ information. We only have about 85 FAQs, and some things are better than the others, and we would further curate data when this would go live. This is all proof of concept code. This is not ready to go live. This isn't I could flip to turn it on. I literally did this at night and we're just to show you guys, okay? So proof of concept only, but to show you it does work. So
Need a
When's the
permit for
recycling
events.
day on Rafferton Drive?
let's see if it has that. I don't know if that'll have that in there, but we'll see. I don't know if that was an FAQ. To be honest, I didn't memorize the question. But we'll see what it spits out. No, it doesn't have any, oh, wait. So based on my knowledge base, trash pickup for Rafferton Drive is Thursday. So it doesn't have anything recycled. It has a trash pickup. So we can say, when is my trash pickup? And it should, unless it remembered Rafferton Drive, it should ask me for my street. And then we give it a street and it'll spit it back out. Let's say Cedar Boulevard, let's do it. Again, I know that everything isn't in there, but Cedar Boulevard pickup is on Wednesday. Losing track of schedules can be tricky. Is there another street you want me to check for you? I will do Shady Drive, but let's just make it, because I know there's an east and west, so let's see what happens when
Yeah,
I
when
just
it
say
does
Shady
that,
Drive.
sure, yeah, smart.
Trash pickup for Shady Drive East is on Thursday, Shady Drive West is on Wednesday.
All right.
Okay, so let me see, I did raise some others. Okay, so here was a good one. We put on here, do I need a permit
For a fence.
to build a fence? Everyone builds fences. Now this is searching our local the FAQ database, it's seeing if it has anything, fence, permit, anything, and we'll start spitting the information out. So here we go. So while my knowledge base mentions building permits required, so it's saying there's nothing general in there, but visit the website. It gives you the website link and it says, or call the office and look, it has the actual right number and the times that we're open.
Nice,
So
nice.
let me see, let's do another one here. Let's do, here we go. Everyone plays pickleball, right? So do you have pickleball courts? Now, as this is going, this is also building a memory of interacting with you. You can,
Sure.
it will answer based on previous answers as
Yeah.
well, so. Hello,
There you go.
we do have pickleball facilities available. So it gives you available courts, reservation, it gives you the link to reserve them and the cost. So,
Nice.
Doesn't list North Meadowcroft,
North Meadowcroft.
pickle courts.
It doesn't actually have where they're all listed. It says the Racket Center offers multiple sports facilities, including 6 hard pickleball courts.
It just doesn't list the free courts. Again, it
Yeah.
doesn't list them because we don't have that data in there.
And yeah, that would, if that wasn't provided us in the FAQs, it wouldn't have came up. But again, this is something that we can curate, and I think we're gonna pull everyone together. This isn't gonna be just, we're gonna ask commission, we're gonna ask all staff, not just, the key people that we were doing, management, staff, every level, to see what are we gonna build, how would be the best.
Well, the commission will be able to speak to the questions that you receive most frequently.
Exactly.
Yeah, so that might be, tie free you guys up sometime, but, okay, I'm not gonna steal the thunder the whole time, so I gave you a little preview of what we're thinking in the future. So I'm gonna go ahead and stop that share and then hand it back over to Ian so he can finish up. I didn't wanna take all your time.
Any questions for Nick on what he ran through before we start talking about the policy side of things? Okay, great. So on the policy side, as I mentioned earlier, we had a very good meeting with the folks at Pitt Cyber earlier this week, and there we go. So we'll run through our meeting that we had with them, some takeaways from that, start talking a little more about the high-level policy that we're asking from the commission to be the overarching goals that we want to achieve, and then also some security considerations that came up both from our meetings with Pitt Cyber and the research that Katie did. So I'll turn it over to Katie for a high level on some definitions to keep in mind as we walk through this.
So as with a lot of the policies, it's really important to include the definitions, and that was one of the things that Pitt Cyber mentioned, that you want to be able to designate between generative AI and predictive AI. And we won't run through all of these, but Nick mentioned LLMs a lot, and those are those large language models that's ChatGPT, it's Claude, and it's a type of generative AI. Predictive AI is more something that uses historical data and statistical analysis to identify patterns. So it's slightly different than generative in the sense that it's not creating original content, it's using bases that you have. So it's important to include both aspects in your policy to make sure that you're talking about like a predictive system. And Nick mentioned a couple of the systems that we use that have it, like the sign violation one and others. And then generative AI would be something like Copilot. So making sure that those two are built into your policy.
And predictive AI could even be something like when you go to write an email, if it suggests finishing your sentence for you, that's like predictive AI.
Yeah.
There we go. Okay, so we had a really good meeting with Beth Schwenke, who's the director of Pitt Cyber, and then Dr. Elise Silva, who's the director of policy research for Pitt Cyber yesterday. We had sent them a lot of our background material that we've been working on. And from what they said, we are fairly far ahead for a local municipality that is, as Nick mentioned too, that right now there are a lot of much larger organizations that have been diving into this, that there's a couple states that have adopted AI policies, a couple states that have adopted AI usage without policies. There's a couple large cities or counties, but really at the municipal level, once you get below a city level, from what research Katie and Nick have done, Katie called around to both some places around here and some places around Philadelphia. We haven't really found many others that are much farther ahead than we are from a policy development standpoint. So we're kind of right around where everyone else of our size municipality is right now, which is that we, as Nick mentioned, have a administrative policy and are working on developing that high level commission-driven policy. One of the big recommendations was to create a 3-level threshold for risk, especially for when we're considering future AI systems, whether it's AI that's built into something we currently use, like Nick mentioned, the one system that has all of our files in it, versus other systems that we use, like for instance, our police body cameras. Right now, if the software provider builds an AI component into that and it starts to do some kind of facial recognition or analysis, that may violate one of those risk thresholds that we have written into our policy. So we want to make sure that we have those thresholds and know, okay, when either something we're looking at adding on, where does that fit within those thresholds? Or if one of our existing softwares adds something in, does it then violate a policy and do we have to look for something else? So making sure that our policies are flexible enough that we can continue to evaluate what we're currently using and either the new add-ons to what we're currently using if we have to pay for them, or some softwares are now just integrating things at a base level. Like Microsoft integrates Copilot into everything pretty much now, that you can't open up Word without Copilot being there. Okay. And as I mentioned, there's need for the two levels of policy, the broad community-facing policy that would apply to municipal staff, employees, elected officials, and the really important ones, and the Pitt Cyber folks reinforced this, was our consultants and third-party vendors too, because it's not just what we use our data for internally, but other data that's collected by third-party consultants. How are they using that data? Are they taking it and plugging it into the regular public ChatGPT AI systems, and then is that a potential security risk for some of our data to get out there? That's especially important for any vendors we use for billing or anything like that, not to get too far into our next presentation on in-house sewer collection, but that is an important consideration for how our vendors that we work with are using and storing our data. So that brings us to the community-facing broad policy. So I detailed some things in my memo. I also sent an email today to the commission that had a list of what the state of Pennsylvania identified as their 10 core AI principles. Commissioner Flynn also sent us some draft ideas that were very helpful in getting this started. There was a draft resolution that referenced some of these things, but really one of the big takeaways I was hoping to get as we start to draft this policy that will ultimately come to the commission for approval is what are the commission's key goals that you want the municipality to achieve through using AI. And once we kind of figure out what those goals are, then that's kind of the lens and the framework that we'll use to make all the other kind of decisions about which softwares we're able to use and how things plug in and all that. But determining the goals is the big first step. So I'll open it up to the group now to kind of talk about what are the most important things for you all as far as how the municipality uses AI.
Transparency.
Yeah.
It's interesting because, and I spent a lot of time on this topic. My concern isn't staff using it. Frankly, I want staff to use it, right? If they're comfortable. I don't want to force anybody, but if they want to use it, go. Use a small language model, build your own, cool. Do stuff. Learn, grow, find ways to create opportunity to deliver services in a new way, right? That's the opportunity. For me, the concern is when we as a municipality say, okay, we're gonna have this large language model that sits out on a third-party platform. Okay, maybe that's fine, but I need to understand what the security requirements are for that data, right? So with the body cameras, right? Great example. Use it. I don't know of any laws that it would say no, but it better stay internal. Right? It is for certain purposes only. The traffic cameras, right? The traffic cameras, I don't know where that data goes. I have no idea. But that's data that we generate. So we have a responsibility to understand that it is securely maintained, let alone if AI is being used on it. So for me, it's not about whether you use AI. People are gonna use it. I think that's my other concern, right? Is that people are gonna use it. So let's not just say no. How do we give them the tools in a safe framework? And frankly, I think from a public sector perspective, most of our data is public. So that should be the default. I mean, I can go and pull audit data from all kinds of municipalities, right? That fast, right? It's really easy. And that frankly makes it easier for me to help my customer who is a municipality. So how do we become more transparent in ways that is going to actually be beneficial to residents? I love the idea of being able to have an assistant But frankly, if my data model is projected out into the ecosystem appropriately, Claude can do it for us. I don't need to build it in-house, right? I mean, it's not a using AI question. It's a, what is our data hygiene and data model perspective that is going to enable the engagement of AI in a way that is secure and safe and protecting the information that we need to protect, right? So I think that's where I'm at with this, is I'm not sure exactly what those pieces are, what the security requirement should be, what the, what the standard over here should be, but there's an ecosystem that we need to be prepared for and enabling, but also putting guardrails around. Again, whether you use a large language model or a small language model, go. That's a technical question. It's what's the security framework and how do we enable? Because again, there's more and more opportunity to do things differently, right? Again, thinking about the fence permit. Well, conceptually, we could just, take 5 more steps and say, and here is how you, right? Here's the form, it's already pre-filled, right? I don't just have to ask when's my trash pickup, right? I can go a few more steps down that path pretty quickly if our data is exposed properly, right? And informing those information sets. So there's a lot of intelligence baked into, I say intelligence broadly, there's a lot of intelligence embedded in AI. So the question now becomes trust. So how do we frame and protect trust? Because compute is easy.
I just have something to
Yeah,
times
okay.
that, so the AI models that are doing that is going through the code and then the data exposure, it's not exposed, it's in the back end, like the thing I made on the back end, you give it tools. So you give it the tools to access your databases and give it the specific information. I did have that in here, but we didn't, towards the end, that's one of the ideas is totally integrating it into like, hey, I want to report a burnout streetlight, give me this, give me that. Okay, thanks, I sent it off, done. I mean, that is one of the tools that I was thinking of doing. But yeah, so there are tools that you could expose and MCP service and stuff to actually expose your data, but in a safe way. So there were so many people that just select all the data from the database and give it, even the personal stuff, and then they're like, okay, but we'll trust you to filter it out. And like, no, just give it what it needs. So yeah, so from a security perspective, I do appreciate that.
So I had an experience with AI the other day, and talking back and forth to it, and it did help me figure out a problem I was having with a product. I finally figured it out. It didn't, I did. But the interesting thing about it was it followed up on my email a day later. So I think that follow-up is also fairly key. When I see human-centered design for people like me who are old, admittedly, it's really reassuring to see that and to also have that point of contact, because now I have even more questions. When I figured out what the problem was, now I want to know how to do this, this, and this. So I think that just extends our customer service, which I think is important because we have a lot of different age groups in this town. And, some of us need more help than others.
Well, I think one of the conversations with Pitt Cyber was also going back to the transparency trust piece of it, to sort of let the public, let residents know what those policies are, how different than you get the statement annually or from your credit card company that says, what do we do with your data, right? Because I'll just pick Sportsman, right? If they build an AI component in, where now they're collecting personal resident data, right? Names, ages of children, whatever else they're collecting. What happens to that data? People are gonna wanna know that. They're gonna wanna know that they can trust whatever's happening when they fill out that form, right? So that's another important piece of it. And they talked about getting resident input into AI and what the municipality's policy is and how you're using it. So
I think it's good.
that's another piece that we need to.
I think that's a good idea to do that. Because I'm always shocked by what people seem to be afraid of or believe or don't believe or whatever, which is, just says that, you know, you don't know what everybody's thinking, so good input.
Any other thoughts for high level goals? So I guess going back to my memo and to the slide that I had, I pretty much heard from the conversation that happened, pretty much all these bullet points, I think, were covered. So I guess that means we were kind of all on the same page here, but I just wanted that confirmation. So as far as next steps go, obviously we will need to ask the commission to adopt a formal policy. We will write all this into a policy. Keith mentioned the resident input. We could develop a 1 or 2 question survey, put it on the website, ask, what residents, what are your most important goals for how the municipality uses AI? And just kind of list these out as bullet points. They could check off all of them or none of them, or fill in the blank. We could do that. It might take a little longer. The next question is, what's the commission's urgency on getting a policy passed? Do you want us to go, do some surveying for a few weeks and then come back? Or do you want us to dive into developing a policy immediately? What does the commission want to see?
I want the feedback. I mean, I think public engagement, through Civic Engagement Board, I mean, it's important to let them have a say. I don't know that we need anything that urgently, that quickly. It might be illuminating, shall we say, to see what people are thinking, Why not?
And I think the resolution, which the draft that you have in your packets is
Yeah.
largely the draft that Commissioner Flynn
Yep.
shared with us.
Mhm.
We could tweak that. I think they're companion pieces.
Yeah.
Right, the resolution sort of sets the framework and the policy
Yeah.
sort of follows with that. So
Yeah.
I think we should have both in place.
Sure.
To move forward, but I think we definitely should be moving forward, so.
That's good.
So before we wrap up, Katie, we'll talk a little bit about the security considerations, because that was something that both Nick and Commissioner Flynn brought up. So I'll let Katie talk about some of the security stuff.
I'll go a little bit high level, we won't go too in depth, but it's the same, the essence of like having transparency, of course, not only in how we're using AI and disclosing that to residents, disclosing that to employees or whomever we're working with, but also making sure that any personal identifiable information is protected in the same way that government has all the regulations in place to protect all that information, that remains true. And of course, Nick definitely has that set up with everything with IT. One of the things that we found, and particularly some of the AI policies, one was from San Jose, California, and they had a very specific low risk, medium risk, high risk, and then the unacceptable risk is actually from the EU policy that just got put in place, but so low risk would be something very similar to what Nick was showing with a virtual assistant, in the sense that it's kind of data that's very curated. It's not going to the internet. It's localized. In that sense, it's not. People have the opportunity to. They don't need to give identifying data. It's not going to mine anything. Those are kind of low risk. It's minimal, and it's not making decisions. It's not automating decisions. Whereas when you move to the medium risk, that's when people will have to find a way to opt out of sharing information. It might do it automatically, or maybe it'll ask it up front if you would like to opt in. But then it also has the opportunity to make some decisions. It's a little bit more predictive, but there will always be a human verification at the end. It'll always be a draft. High risk is when it is automating those decisions. There isn't necessarily an opt-out data element, and so those are ones that would require like continuous review. And that was actually one of the things that Pitt Cyber recommended in the policy, is to make sure that there's a schedule for reviewing different AI systems that we utilize. And making sure that that is on board. And that's really building off of the current administrative policy that we have. IT already does review that, but just making it a little bit more regimented. And again, showing to the community, like, we do consider these things. We have sunset procedures in place. If something starts to move into a higher risk category, we have a way to either remove it, or if it's not usable anymore, it's out of date, then we have a way to get rid of it. And then the unacceptable use is, of course, things that are using social scoring, or algorithmic discrimination. And a lot of those are blocked and would not be presented to us in any way, but just to make sure that that's communicated to the residents, that nothing we will do will ever do something like that. And yeah.
All right, great. Well, thank you all very much. We will be back. Just one final thought on this too, because both through what Nick said and through our meeting with the Pitt Cyber folks, they all stressed the importance of training. And we talked quite a bit about this in our department head staff meeting last week. And department heads are really interested in getting training and being able to learn how to use these tools. But, and I know Nick is building these things out now, but one of the things that we started to talk about, and I know I included it in the memo too, is, potentially considering the commission's willingness to maybe have to hire someone or bring someone on to kind of help spearhead this, especially if we want to move it quickly, because of all the other current projects that IT is working on right now. If we want to push AI implementation quickly, it may be worth considering some additional personnel to be able to help do that in a speedier manner. I know hiring people is not a fast process, but I'm not asking tonight for additional personnel immediately, but just something else for the commission to
Get in line.
Well, it's part of the whole theme of this year, right? With our training, everything else, we're talking about capacity
Every
building.
time we turn around.
So,
I might have something in the budget, just saying.
all right.
All right.
Thanks.
Thanks very much.
Thanks
Thank you,
very much.
everybody.
Yeah, interesting.
Mr. McCreary, you have the floor. It's your show. Dazzle us.
Tell us how you're gonna automate the in-house sewer collection.
Yeah, yeah.
Good luck with that.
Good evening, Commission. Part of our 2025 for 2026 goal setting was to analyze in-house sewer collections. It's our only current collection that is outsourced, and it's done through Jordan Tax Service. So analyzing what it would look like to bring in-house was the task that was given to us. So this is what it looks like. So currently, our current provider is Jordan Tax Service. Our annual cost is $130,000 for this collection. Part of it is a flat fee, charged per bill, and then there's the printing, mailing of bills, plus a small fee if you only do, opt into electronic service for it. So as you will see later, it's quite the deal. I don't know how, and I'll just say this in this meeting, I don't know how they're making money on us, quite frankly. I don't know how it's being done. So the advantages are no added staff for us, the collection efficiencies at more scale. They do this for plenty of other communities. There's hundreds of thousands of households they bill for, and they have the expertise and knowledge for sewage collections, especially on a delinquent level. Now, the kicker is that we're at 96% collections in sewage, which is unheard of around. We don't have a delinquency problem in sewage at all, in any way, shape, or form. So I don't think we're going to see a boondoggle of funds if we brought it in-house too. I don't see that happening. The disadvantages is, there are complaints of we're not in control of the customer service. So we don't control the narrative. We don't control the customer service when it comes to it. A lot of times it's disgruntled. We don't hear any success stories. We only hear the disgruntled that comes to and rises up to our level when it comes back to us. And it's a separate payment for residents, right? It's a separate relationship, and outside of those that are individual proprietors, there's not many people that are paying Jordan Tax Service outside the sewage collection.
Right.
For it. So there's two potentials for in-house collection. One would be a continued monthly billing in-house, and we would combine that with the trash fee collection to kind of bring down some of the costs from the trash collection fee side. And we could also switch to quarterly billing. which is what a lot of communities around us still do. I'm not recommending that we would ever do this, but it is an option if you wanted to bring, costs down, but there are some drawbacks there. So in-house billing, so running through the costs, it's about 250 grand a year. So it's an increase of about 120,000 over our current provider. That's why I don't know how you do this at this level of 11,500 accounts, right, per month that we're billing, that we would have to bill in-house. We don't have the infrastructure to, take all of those payments in-house. As much as we like to say, and we can see it from our billing of tax collection, stormwater, and trash fee, people still like paying by check in this town. They like coming in and giving us tens of thousands of dollars in cash for school district payments. It still exists. We can't get away from it, yes. When our treasury manager was off, someone had to take it to the bank. I took a large sum of money to the bank, and no one needs to know how much it was or when it was, but it happens, right? So there's still a large collection there, so no matter how much you want to automate it. So things we would have to implement here would be lock boxes and an e-billing provider, right? These are all things that are done at scale through Jordan Tax Service. So the biggest cost being the full-time personnel we'd need to add at least one personnel for it. Postage and printing, this is based off of what we do now. Now, this would be, it's at $8K a month. We would drop it down based on, our e-billing platform. But there's still costs that are associated with having an e-billing platform. Someone needs to get paid to do this. So there would be that as well. There's other things that we've started to see in municipalities where you are charged a fee if you want a paper bill.
Yeah.
That there's opt-in, opt-out programs, so on and so forth for e-billing. All things that could be looked at if you want to do, but I think a rough cost is about $250,000 a year. The changes that would be recommended is that all billing go to property owners. This is due to, if we wanted to team it up with trash collection goes to the property owner currently. And ultimately, both fees are lienable to the property owner, not a tenant. So currently at Jordan Tax Service, if you are a landlord and you opt for your tenant, which we never recommend, your tenant to pay the bill, the landlord does also receive a bill. So we would recommend everything gets billed to the tenant, and it's their job to bill their tenants, not us, because ultimately the lien comes back to the property owner. Also, we would need to potentially do some building modifications here, because that's more in-house collections here and more activity than we have currently, because ours are seasonal, right? So the heavy period is April for trash collection, for trash fee collection, and then end of July, beginning of August. So, if we're in here all the time and people are here all the time and we have the ability for people to come in and pay, I value our treasury department in that they build relationships, people, and people will come in here to pay. They love our people. And that's a testament to them. So something to consider. So there's also the potential for quarterly billing. So now quarterly billing is done across this region, especially with Alcosan customers. The reason is because Alcosan bills us quarterly. This could be more towards the cost of what we're paying now. As you can see, is $133,000 a year. A lot of the same similar costs for upfront fees. For collecting it per month and so on and so forth. The biggest drawbacks to this, one is that at landlord and owner transfers and tenant transfers, there's a delay in billing, right? So your first water flow that happens in January, you wouldn't get billed till April 15th at the earliest. So that's a huge time consideration where right now everything's based off of your water bill. So we get your water record as soon as you're billed from Pennsylvania American Water, and you're billed at the end of the month. Jordan batches all of those readings and you get billed at the end of the month. So that's a huge consideration in timing. In addition, there is a reduction in cash flow because guess what also happens? Alcosan doesn't bill us till April 15th. It's actually not due for another 60 days. So the bill, your first flow that happens in January, we actually don't pay that dime until June, beginning of June. We don't pay that. So there's a cash flow issues that, hey, we would be collecting and the bill would be due. Now, do we have enough float now? Yes, but that's not always gonna be the case in the future. So not a something we looked at, didn't wanna, shy away from the fact that we looked at it. And then other considerations, we would have, we saw that lockbox for real estate collections may be something for integration in the future, to allow us to give more capacity for current personnel. I think if we went lockbox and we went in-house sewage collections, we would go lockbox for real estate collections as well, to avail that capacity for phone calls, because we know we're gonna get the phone calls. As much as an AI assistant will be there to help us, hopefully, the increased call volume for sewage is going to be intense. So, we would investigate a virtual agent, of course, and those types of things. So there's a lot of things to consider. Ultimately, my recommendation is unless something changes, I don't recommend us changing. But I did want to provide you the analysis that we did do for in-house collections, so.
Yeah, makes sense. Stay where we are.
Any questions? Okay, thank you.
Information.
I'm out.
And I'm back. All right. Here again, this time talking about sidewalks. So I am pleased to report that the Greenhurst sidewalk installation has been completed. I drove through it today. It looks
Yay.
great. And additionally, on top of the Greenhurst sidewalk being complete, the contractor from last year did their final punch work items
Yay.
on the Woodland sidewalk. A lot of it was some restoration in some residents' yards, but they did do that as of a few weeks ago. So
And I've already gotten complaints about e-bikes on the sidewalk. Already.
discussion.
Yeah,
So,
sorry.
for purposes of tonight, this is a focus mostly on the next steps and where we want to go. We are in the process of finalizing the capital improvement program that you will see in the coming months. So we want to make sure that what is listed in the CIP is reflective of what the commission's goals are and what the commission's priority for sidewalks are. So since we have two commissioners who are new this year, I thought I would just give a brief recap of where we started with the sidewalk network before we did these two projects on Woodland and Greenhurst. So about 77% of municipal streets have some type of sidewalk. And we have a whole variety of different types of sidewalks within the community. There are sidewalks that like on the left-hand side here, sit back from the curb. There are sidewalks like on the right-hand side here are right up against the curb, and there are gaps sometimes between sidewalks where this one on the right where the red circle is, the sidewalk comes up to that driveway at the beginning of the picture, stops for one property, and then continues on starting on the next property. Commissioner Petty will probably recognize this, it's in his ward. I think actually all of these are in his ward because I took pictures of them when I was driving around where I live. So there are some sidewalks that were installed by private property owners that do not meet with municipal standards and are more like pavers that exist within the right of way.
And do not meet ADA standards. You can't do a wheelchair over that easily.
Correct.
Just
Yes.
bring home the point.
And there are some streets that don't have sidewalks, but there are, when sidewalks need to be installed, sometimes challenges with private landscaping and other private structures. Like here we have a retaining wall and a bollard at the end of this driveway. This picture was on Woodland where we installed sidewalks last year, and we installed them on the other side of the street because there were many fewer of these obstructions within the right of way and challenges. So that is one of the considerations for when we install new sidewalks is which side of the street they may go on, which side has fewer challenges. The topography is always an issue because we're in Mount Lebanon, and so on and so forth. One other example I will mention is there are a few what I would call neighborhood greenway connections where Sleepy Hollow Road here makes a sharp turn onto Richland Road, and then Sleepy Hollow picks back up on the other side of, there are two properties here, but this is still designated as functionally a paper street. There is municipal infrastructure, there's some sewers that run through it. So there is a paper street here between these two sections of roadway, and there's a little, I'll call it footpath that runs kind of between these trees that people who walk this have trod down. but it's not a formalized connection at this point in time. But those are also things that exist around the community that could provide some neighborhood connections as we make further considerations for sidewalk installations.
And
I know that
walkability.
cut through was there.
So currently, what we have been basing our prioritization on is the direction that was given at the commission discussion session in January of 2025, which was to do a Greenhurst Drive in 2026, followed by Lakemont, which connects to it in 2027, and then Kelso in 2028. So I'll just run through. Back when we first started this journey of sidewalk installation in 2023, we updated the municipal sidewalk expansion policy, and the commission had Gateway do a type size location analysis on 7 streets around the municipality. We've completed 2 of those now, Woodland and Greenhurst. We have a few others that were on the list that Gateway did that type size location analysis for. That was basically determining which side of the street a sidewalk should go on, whether it should be against the curb, set back from the curb, things like that, how big the sidewalk should be, what other challenges may exist in those areas. So I'll run through those ones where we have the type size location analysis done. There was also a resident request for sidewalks on Salem Drive, so I have that on the list as well. But there are opportunities through the new sidewalk expansion policy for residents to request getting into the queue. These initial ones that were analyzed were based on sort of staff and engineering and resident recommendations, but by streets that are collector streets for other streets that feed into them, and mostly streets that are either high traffic streets or streets that lead to schools, parks, playgrounds, other community assets and amenities. I will also mention that this year the Mobility Board made a dual recommendation to do Lakemont and Kelso together. So we have some estimated costs for those sections. The commission's prior direction was for Lakemont in 27, Kelso in 2028. I will also note that sidewalk expansion takes a lot of staff time to do. There was 2 residents on Greenhurst that I probably sent at least 40 emails to and spent a 2-hour meeting with, along with multiple phone calls between myself, the engineers, and other people. And there were only 10 houses on Greenhurst this year. So I spent a lot of time over the last couple of years between Greenhurst and Woodland trying to work with the residents to get them to understand the process, and there's an agreement that they signed and so on and so forth. So there is a large staff lift. I will say with the staff we have right now, we do not have the capacity to do 2 sidewalks in 1 year. I would just say that. Okay. So the first potential area, this was the one on the left-hand side where the commission had recommended doing in 2027. So we just did Greenhurst up at the top. So connecting now Greenhurst into Lakemont all the way down to Kurt Drive. There is a second section of Lakemont between Glades and Raleigh that also doesn't have sidewalks, but that was not on any priority list that was previously provided. The one that was previously mentioned was the section from Greenhurst to Kurt, actually 1 house past Kurt, but that is the current one slated for 2027. And then the 2028 list, I know there's been some resident requests on Kelso Road. Kelso has an additional challenge that is a PennDOT right of way, so there may be some additional coordination and permitting needed there. There are a couple spot sidewalks. The red lines on the map are where sidewalks exist currently. So Kelso was, from the previous commission direction, slated for 2028 installation. Other ones that we had looked at when we did the type size location analysis, Sleepy Hollow Road. There are sidewalks leading up to that, what I'll call neighborhood greenway at between Richland and Highview, but there are not sidewalks from Highview all the way down to just before Briarwood. A couple houses right before the Briarwood intersection do have sidewalks, and there are sidewalks going up Millbeth as well. So that's another spot that was looked at. Country Club Drive in the same neighborhood is also one of the walking routes that people take to get to school. That whole neighborhood kind of converges on that Country Club Sleepy Hollow intersection. And there's a variety of different ways that people will take to get up to the school, but there is that curve. Another challenge here, there are a lot of large, very stately trees on Country Club Drive. So if we did want to look at Country Club, there may be some additional considerations that we need to make there because there's not a lot of space outside the current cartway for sidewalks to be installed at this point in time. And personally, I would not recommend taking down those very beautiful trees at this
And I
point
was
in time.
gonna say, the only way to do it is to take down the trees on one side. I think we ought to be clear about that, because they're huge and there is no space.
Well, there have been
You know.
residents who have said they'd be willing to have a one-way street.
And so you could put it in the cart path.
in the car, yeah,
That's an interest, well, see, that's a better
right.
resolution.
But it also takes more capacity, more
Yeah.
financial.
And
kind of
isn't that
work.
street the one that's next to,
Is a private.
yeah, it's a private street,
Yes, Audubon next to it is a
Audubon,
private street.
yeah, which would be another place to put sidewalks.
That section is your first one.
Yeah, the section of Audubon
if you're diverting
between
them
Country
out.
Club
Yeah,
and Sleepy
Sleepy
Hollow
Hollow
is
is private,
private,
yes.
Oh, that would make making that one-way really difficult.
Yeah,
It
because
really
you're
would.
diverting, then you
Yeah.
divert, yeah.
Yeah,
Although
then
I
you're
wonder
putting
if
it onto a private
Yeah.
lane.
But I wonder if there's a capacity, just spitballing, to make Audubon a public road, because it's got a fair
We
amount
have
of.
a process in place for that.
No, I know you do. I know, but I mean, I'm just saying, it's not impossible, like some places where it's really hard to convert it into our municipal standards, because there's no space, that's all it really, I'm just talking
The cartway-
physical.
The
Yeah.
right of way width exists,
Yeah,
it would be a somewhat costly.
yeah, it's also a really steep street, I mean,
It is,
it's a
it comes up
very,
from Sleepy Hollow
Yeah.
to
very
connect up
steep,
to.
yes.
My recommendation there, if the commission wanted to consider something on Country Club, that rather than installing a concrete sidewalk within the right of way, maybe do some kind of trial period where you use paint and flex posts or something like that to create a one-way street and see if you get a ton of complaints to the ward commissioner over there. And if everyone hates it, then don't spend $500,000 on concrete.
Yeah, exactly.
But that's a
Yeah.
further down the road consideration as well. Just throwing that out there, that if that's something the commission wants to consider, that may be a opportunity for a test run trial period, rather than spending $500,000 on new sidewalks in conversion to a one-way street right
Yeah.
away. I think the technical name for that is tactical urbanism.
Yes.
And then Rob Hollow Road was another one where there are some sidewalks in some areas, but Hoover Elementary is on Rob Hollow at the intersection with Larchdale. And there isn't a clear walking path up Rob Hollow. There are sections where there's sidewalks on one side, then there's sidewalks on the other side, but there are also gaps in the sidewalk network there. And then finally, Salem Drive, another one that connects between Bower Hill Road all the way down to Cedar Boulevard where Main Park is.
Yes.
There was some resident requests there for sidewalk consideration. And that's another neighborhood where there are sidewalks on adjoining streets with Long Ridge and Duquesne. And additionally, the other street that runs the full length of Bower Hill to Cedar is Greenhurst, where we just did 2 blocks of sidewalk installation to make that connection there. So that's another one for consideration. So the question I have for the group is, how does the commission want us to prioritize and list out the future sidewalk installations in the CIP? We'd like to show this as an every year project. Is the commission still in favor of Lakemont in 27, Kelso in 28? If that's good, then which ones would you like us to show for 29, 30, 31? Or if you don't have one, we can just put a placeholder number of $500,000 in the CIP and say, future consideration. So we're open to any options, but I wanted to make sure that what's in the document reflects what the commission wants.
Okay, so I just wanna say one lesson about design and how people use streets, sidewalks, etc. There's a good example downtown, the old Gimbel's Garage, I'm dating myself, where people used to cut through the old Gimbel's Garage all the time because we had so much rain and so much inclement weather, right? Parking Authority comes to a design professional I know and says, oh my God, don't let anybody come through here, what can we do to stop that? And he convinced them, let's make it a safe way for people to get through the old Gimbel's Garage, because they're gonna do it anyways, no matter how hard you try to keep them out. The lesson in that is, for example, with Salem Drive, it doesn't make any difference if there are 55 streets around it. That is the street that kids walk on to go to the school. Therefore, I think we have to address it. It's not as simple as, hey, look, we'll just throw it over here. they won't do it. You want to make sure that if we're really going to consider the mobility needs, consider what the natural pathways are that are used by people right now, because that's where you get the most bang for your buck.
Yeah, and plus, 'cause
Lecture,
the-
my TED Talk is now over.
Yeah, that's a good, and because the residents are also requesting it in Salem,
Yeah.
that could be very helpful.
Yeah.
And so perhaps it would go a little more smoothly. And, I think that's a good point. I mean, people
It's
are
also
just-
middle school kids who have, limited brain capacities, let's just say that.
Yeah, but this is like a very,
They're still developing.
high density.
They're raging hormones is basically what they are.
So.
So it makes sense to do that.
Does the active transportation plan change our thinking in terms of the framing around this topic? Because my concern is with Salem, again, Salem's an ideal spot. Frankly,
Yeah.
the conversations are Kelso, right? Mobility Board here is Kelso. So I think that definitely needs to be in the top two. And Lakemont, I've already talked to a lot of residents who are really excited about getting Lakemont done. And I will say, just for everybody, right, I've had a lot of residents, really excited and taking pictures of themselves, doing selfies, walking on Greenhurst sidewalks. Yeah, so, yeah, and not just kids, right, adults, really excited about this. But I think my question with the active transportation plan, and you alluded to it with the country club, right? We can do some tactical urbanism experiences, is with Salem, it's a really wide street.
Yeah.
And part of the problem is that it's wide and people go fast. So is sidewalk the answer? I don't know that for sure. That is a solution, but I don't know if that's necessarily solving the problem. And how do we use the active transportation plan and say, we want to put $500,000 toward addressing mobility, but sidewalk might not be the right answer in every case. So is that changing our thinking?
Yes, great question. I will say, having just finished reading through another draft of the active transportation plan, it's mostly centered around I'll say buffet of options for different types of streets. So Salem is a certain type of street, and it will say on these types of streets, here are the things you can consider doing. So I think the best way to use the active transportation plan would be for the mobility board, maybe a subcommittee of the board, to have a little charrette with residents from Salem and say, okay, here's the 10 different options for things that could be considered for installations on your street. Which ones of these do you like? Which ones don't you like? Which ones do you think would be the most useful? Sidewalk are absolutely one of them, right? Sidewalks are, the active transportation plan wholly supports expanding sidewalks throughout the community. But you're right, it is a wide cartway as well. But I think it also supports that level of resident feedback to kind of help the residents have a hand in what's on their street.
Well, and one of my structural concerns, right, we've kind of gone through this over the years, is we have a asphalt program, we have a curb program, we have a sidewalk program, right? At some point, right, from a commission perspective, we want to prioritize structural change. I don't want to, again, understanding, right, that Andrew's got a budget and he's got to manage different buckets, but from an elected perspective, we want to understand strategic priority and change, and looking at 500,000 here, 500,000 here, it might not be informing the strategic decision that we're actually trying to get to. So that's my other
So we have
concern.
to look at connectivity and where it makes the best bang for the buck,
Right,
essentially.
I don't care if you're
I
putting a sidewalk, a speed bump, or
Right.
painting, doing tactical urbanism, putting in bollards, planting a tree in the middle of the street. That's outside of our purview, but we want to put $1 million or whatever the number is at this cartway.
And that would be a great use of the time for the subcommittee for mobility board, because this is taking up so much of your time, like, let's utilize these volunteers. And if the subcommittee can have a discussion with the residents, they can gather information and then give that back to you, that could help.
So what I'm hearing from the commission is, do you want Salem on first in 2027 or third in 2029? Because I heard Kelso's should be second or in the top two. And I will say just one other piece of additional context. one of the reasons why Lakemont was listed by the commission last year when we had this discussion was not only does, it connect with the one on Greenhurst that we just installed, also Lakemont connects down to Hoover, right, with Larchdale coming across. But also that is the, I'll say, primary exit route for people leaving St. Clair Hospital
Right.
that live to the south of us.
Right.
Having lived in that neighborhood previously, at shift change time at 3:00, there are a plethora of cars that come down Lakemont and cut down Kurt to Lindendale to go out to the
Cedar.
south for people
Sure.
that live in
Yeah.
Upper St. Clair and Peters Township and things like that. So that is much more of a vehicular thoroughfare through there, and the curves do make it a little challenging. So that was one of the reasons the commission had designated that previously. I'm not pitching
Walking
for it, but that was,
It's a walking route.
I
mean,
personally
it's
think
the
that,
first.
these two that the mobility board has recommended are a good foundational choice. I would support it. I think beyond that, whether it's Sage or another one that is closer to schools,
Salem is a perfect.
Salem is definitely a good one.
Definite.
But if there are others that may
Right.
rise to the top, I wouldn't
Right.
be opposed.
we'll put Salem on the list for 2029, and then we'll just put placeholders for 2030 and 2031 just for
Yeah.
future sidewalk
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
projects. Unless the commission feels strongly about any of these other ones on the list that we've looked at so far.
At some point, depending on what you come out with from the active transportation plan,
Mhm.
we may want to create a separate listing in the CIP for
Future.
future
Right-of-way project.
Yeah.
right-of-way projects or some descriptor that's more than just sidewalks.
Yeah, and I think this money needs to go in that bucket. But it should be probably more than that, right?
Yeah. I agree.
Just so that the future commissioners have a broader conceptualization of what is possible.
Makes sense to me.
And
Thank you very much.
reconvene in commission chambers.